What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Storyteller Jet with another episode of the That's So Fire Talk Show. And today we have my great friend Leon G. Barnes in the house. Let's go.
What's up, man?
What's going on?
It's so
What's
good
going
to see
on?
you. I'm so proud of you, man. Look at this studio.
Appreciate that.
This is awesome, man. I know I've been down here before, but just in a year's time, how much you've added. This is amazing. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You are one of my top favorite human beings, so it's super awesome to have you here in the show. I don't know, we've known each other for like, I don't know, 7 years now.
7 years.
It's been fantastic, you know, being around CG, being around you guys. And you guys have poured so much into me, and I'm super grateful for that. Like the time that we've had in Mexico and like, you know, getting, you know, the time to chat.
Roomies.
You don't want to talk about that, all the, you know, snoring from me.
Yes, Jet is a snorer, and my wife knows this, that I am not a fan of snoring. But you don't know that you do it until someone tells you. So someone's got to tell you, and I made sure I told you.
Yeah, when I get super tired, and we had a lot of tired days in Mexico, like my wife tells me when I get super tired, I snore. When I'm like, you know, fresh and stuff like that, I'm good. But like most of the time, you know, I snore. But yeah, man, super excited to have you on the show. Today, we're going to talk a lot about different things, about, you know, the power of community, you know, how to being in the right room, how to scale smarter. A lot of really great things that CG and the evolution of CG too.
Sure.
The very first time that we met each other 7 years ago, there were like 117 members in CG, and now they have over 800 members, which is awesome. And the span of 7 years to grow a community like this, that's awesome.
I want to share the first time that I heard the name Jetro. I was like, Jet who? It's a unique name. I had never heard Jetro before, and I walked in, and this is when I was first starting. I was still working for the Collective Genius remotely, and I would fly into Tampa a couple times, you know, every other month. At the time, I think I was in town for a couple of weeks on initial training. And I remember looking on Jason Medley's desk, and on his desk, he had this portfolio from this guy named Jetro. And I was like, Jetro, is this guy from Kentucky? I mean, what kind of name? Kentucky, Kansas? Where's this guy from? I joke with Kentucky and Kansas because both Jason and I are from Kentucky and Kansas. But that's a name that you would hear, you know, in farmland. And he's like, no, this is a different type of Jetro. This is like Caribbean Jetro. But man, this dude is full of energy, and I think he's going to take, you know, our look of our community to another level, and he was spot on. That relationship started, I hadn't met you yet, but I had looked at the videos and things that you had shared with us, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really going to level up the quality of what the Collective Genius is and what people see. And I have always said from the main stage, when we're wrapping up, you know, I always make sure that I thank you and your brother and your team, because what you guys, you know, put together, our testimonials, now our live podcast, it's just continued to always have this elegant look, this very professional look. And I've seen your evolution through this time as well. And your evolution is an evolution for us as well, because you continue to make us look better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, Leon. I'd never heard of that story before about the first time you saw my name, but thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic to hear. We didn't even do a quick introduction of yourself yet. Yeah. So who's Leon Barnes? And I know the big organization that you're working in, which I'm super grateful for, is the Collective Genius.
Sure.
Let's do a quick introduction of who Leon Barnes is, and then we'll do like, what is the Collective Genius?
Sure. So I'll start with, my name is Leon Barnes. I am first and foremost a husband, a father that lives right here in the Tampa Bay area. Moved here 5 years ago. I'm originally from the Kansas City area, but spent a lot of my adult life in Wichita, Kansas, which is where I started started with a real estate investing business and eventually went into business on my own. When I say real estate investing, it's mostly single family rentals, flips, and that led me to an introduction to the Collective Genius. And what the Collective Genius is a group of real estate investors, the professional real estate investor, the person that's not just doing some side hustle flips and things of that nature, the full-time elite level real estate investor. Wherever you're at in your journey as a real estate investor, we have a community for you. And that's evolved over time, which obviously we'll get into. But it's a community where like-minded entrepreneurs come together to grow and scale, not only from a real estate investing side, but also from a human side. Like, I want to be a better father. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better mother. I want to be a better wife. It's beyond just business. And, I'm smart enough to know that I'm not the smartest person ever in the room. But if I surround myself with smart people, they'll continue to pull me up. So I've been blessed in my life to meet a lot of smart people that have always said, get yourself in the right room and surround yourself with the right people. And that's what I've been able to do over time. And now been associated with the Collective Genius for 10 years, 1 year as a member. And then I've been on this side of the membership consultant and director of membership, and I've had a bunch of titles over the years. But at the end of the day, 4
titles within 2 years or something. It's crazy.
Yeah. At the end of the day, though, I am just an ambassador of the brand. I am a conduit between one person and another to help them get what they're looking for right now that will make their business and their lives better. That's what I focus on a daily basis.
That's awesome. So CG has seen some exponential growth over the past 7 years that I've been a part of it. From being 117 members to over 800 now. What would you attribute to that growth?
Well, like anything, when you actually care about your member or client, if you're in another industry, when you actually genuinely care about their growth, and you have a community of people that you foster giving. Like, our whole culture is built on someone that's coming in. They're not just coming in to get and receive. They're in this, we filter everyone through our consults to say, what value can you bring to the community? You are the lifeblood to our community. So if you're not bringing any value, I'm not sure if this is a good fit for us, and may not be a good fit for you either. And so we just continue to evolve the community. And 4.5 years ago, we had finally seen enough evidence that there was a big gap between the person that had been in the business, 10 plus years, and the person that had been in the business 3 to 5 years. In any industry, obviously, the time that is spent usually means that someone has more experience in a larger business, right? And so there was a disconnect between those individuals that were doing X amount of real estate on an annual basis versus the person that really wanted to be in that room but wasn't ready to be in that room. And so I think the smartest thing that we did over my 7 years within the organization is level up our highest level group at the time. These are people that are doing at least $2 million a year in gross annual profit. And they're typically doing a couple hundred transactions a year, whether that's fix and flip, fix and hold, new construction, all of the different facets of single-family real estate investment. And we have some multifamily as well. And so that group kind of graduated into a new room that we had to tier it out, and we called it our Premier Group. So it's the highest level real estate investors collection across the United States. And then we said, all right, there's a lot of young and up-and-coming talent that we're not allowing into this community. That was the hard part, Jetro. It had all these applications stacking up of people that had said, hey, you're not quite ready yet. When you are, I know you're a good person, and I know you'll add value to this community, just not yet. Well, that person was now allowed in. And now we had a second tier. And that proved the model that we could help people grow from one tier to the next. I'm very, very blessed to say that in a 4.5 year time frame, we have graduated, I think, 45 members.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, it's very cool, right? Because that means someone has gone from, just to give perspective, like they're $1 million business, and they have gone from 1 million to 2 million, doubled their business in a 1 to 2 year time frame. They do the work, but the community also ultimately gives them a blueprint to take their learning curve from here to here. And that's the value of the community. And so I guess to wrap all of that up and say what the genius is of the collective genius, it's the member, right? It's the vetted member that comes in that says, I am here to help others. And I know if I help others, I ultimately get everything that I came into this community for. So that fits me to a T. Like, I enjoy being around like-minded individuals that are willing to share, collaborate versus competition. And that's I see that more in the younger generation, especially in entrepreneurship, that the younger generation definitely says, hey, we can collaborate. We don't have to be competition. Yeah. And that's been a little piece of the secret to the secret sauce as well, as we see a lot more collaboration these days.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from another CG family person is Matt Andrews.
Yes.
The best collaborators win. And I feel like I've mentioned this specifically on every single show because it's so impactful.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they try to do things on their own. They don't like, and other part two, you guys brought some fantastic speakers that always come to CG, and one of them was Benjamin Hardy, and the book that he creates was like, Who Not How.
Sure.
And that is like really around collaboration and people like, finding other people that can do things better than they can in a faster way, instead of always trying to figure out how can I achieve that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. But before we delve further into the talk show, can you do a quick elevator pitch for each of those levels that
Sure.
are at CG?
Absolutely. I do it on a daily basis, and I've done it over 1,000 times, I'm sure, in 7 years. So the quick pitch is this. We have a room and a tier for every single full-time real estate investor. I'll give one exception. If you are someone that's an engineer and you're working 10 to 20 hours a week.
Are you talking about Steve Chang right now?
Well, maybe so. If you're an engineer and maybe you're full-time, but you've been doing that work for so long that you're working 10 to 20 hours on your W-2, and the rest of the time is spent in real estate investing. There's are some exceptions to the rule, but generally it's a full-time real estate investor doing at least a deal or two a month. We want to see that there's some transactional things happening. Plus, usually that person has a couple rentals as well, and they're just not quite sure of what that blueprint is to scale to 2 a month or 3 a month. And our job quickly at that tier is called Elevate. It's for a reason. It's called Elevate, to help them double their business, double their deal flow. Because once they double that deal flow, right, they go from a $250,000 business to a $500,000 business in 6 to 12 months. All of a sudden now they're an operator. Now they have a business versus a hustle. So that's our Elevate level group. And that level is ran by 2 people that you've had on the show, I know, and Ben Montlocker and Joe Cipollini. Those guys are great operators, and we couldn't have better partners running that organization 3 times a year, and the calls that they do for that community. So that's somebody doing between 12 and 30 deals transactionally on an annual basis. Now, we'll make exceptions for those people that may be in California. You're in California and you're doing 4 or 5 deals and your revenue is a lot more than somebody doing 12. Those exceptions are made as well, because there are some markets where you don't have to do a bunch of transactions, and so we're cognizant of that, and we obviously will have that conversation. So that's our entry level. We don't work with newbies. There's plenty of great coaches out there, a lot of them in Family Mastermind, as you mentioned before, that I refer a lot of those people to. Beyond that is our select level group. It's our largest now. 4.5 years ago, we knew that group would have the most upside of sheer numbers of members. That group that's the up and coming real estate investor. That's the person that's been in the business usually 3 to 5 years. They're between 28 and 32 age range. They are the next premier level. They are coming, right? It's like Deion Sanders said, they got next. They're coming, right? And they're generally just below $2 million. But man, we have people in there doing hundreds of transactions. We have a few people over the $2 million mark. And generally they have a small team right now. They're really close to being in a legit business. The only thing that's separating them are the who's. They don't have enough of the who's yet, but they have a legit business. I mean, they're doing a couple $1 million generally, or just short thereof, looking to continue to grow and scale. I think that the biggest thing I have to say about all of these communities is these are entrepreneurs that want to grow. They're pushing a rock up the hill. That doesn't, now scale means something different for everyone, right? For them, the scale, could mean that I want to gain more time. I want to gain more revenue. Whatever it is, that select level community helps them kind of figure that out. What is next for me? Do I want a bigger business? Do I want a more efficient business, a more profitable business? It's really that training ground before you hit that next level where you really have your business figured out and you know what you want to do. The Premier Group is the group that's been around the longest.
Yep,
14 years. It started all of this.
Wow, 14 years already.
I started 10 years ago with the community. And I remember at that time, the barrier of entry was 50 transactions. 50. Wow. And I remember when I started in real estate, because I hadn't been in real estate forever. I worked in corporate America for 11 years. And when I started this, I was like, what is a mastermind? I don't know what the heck that is. And 50 deals back then was a big deal. If you were doing 50 transactions across the United States, and I say 50 purchases, now how you dispose of those, whether you're flipping them or holding them for rentals, that's the other side of it. But I was blown away by how many people were doing a couple hundred transactions. Not retail, I'm talking just investment transactions. And now that number has been pushed up to 100, which is great because it allows for people. I always use the reference of a ladder. If you're climbing a ladder and there are rungs to that ladder and you're trying to get to the next floor, right? Which we can use as an analogy for the different levels of business. Well, if you miss a rung, if there's a rung that you skip, what do you have? What's the possibility?
Falling and breaking your head.
Right. Or the analogy would be your business falls. You have a struggle and you have to start back from the first rung. Mm-hmm. So the communities are like the rungs. We catch you where you need right now to move forward. And so there's a big gap, massive gap in business operations between someone that's doing a couple million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, and the person doing one. And generally that's systems, process, people. That's it. Systems, process, people. And so most of the people at the Premier level, roughly 200 members in that group, these are people that are veterans. They've been doing this business for a super long time. They've been in this business 10 plus years. They've gone through the crash of 2008. They're tweaking. How do I hire the best salesperson, not just adding another salesperson? They're tweaking. They're hiring executives to run their businesses, COOs, CSOs, chief technology officers now with AI and all the new technologies that's coming into real estate. And then finally, last year, this was a group that I talked to Jason about before we started Select.
Really?
And Elevate. It was something I had pushed to say, I'm worried that we don't have a product for the person that's been with us for 12 years. Think about that. They've been with us for 12 years. Most entrepreneurs, they change more often than 12 years, mm-hmm. right? They change every 12 minutes. And so I wanted to push a higher level product to be able to make sure that our highest levels, we're still getting those conversations that they needed. And I'm glad we came back around to it. Select actually proved the model that we could do a higher level room. And so we started a year ago our CEO group. And that group is for businesses that are just at the highest level. I mean, these are 1%ers in the real estate industry and all niches of real estate investing. So single family, multifamily, land, developers, apartments, self-storage, mixed use, industrial. I think I said developers, I'll say it again. These are the cream of the crop, people that are doing $10 million a year in gross annual profit, or we also measure net worth. So if somebody is, maybe their business doesn't do a bunch of transactions, they do one deal a year, but the business owner is worth $20 million, that we've got a seat for that individual because they have some knowledge that they can share with that room. And so it's a very diversified, small, more intimate setting, kind of how CG started. Mm-hmm. And that room is, I'm most excited about that room right now because we are attracting, the community is attracting new, fresh talent that would not have made sense for us when we were a very single-family dominated real estate investing community. And so we're attracting people now that have their own jets.
Own jets. Jets jet. I need to buy a jet and call it Jets Jet.
You do. Yeah. You do. Well, let's, start here.
Start here.
Yes. Yep. Little things equal big things. You'll hear me say that probably a few times on this pod. Little things ultimately equal big things.
Yep, absolutely. If you're just tuning in on the show today, we are going to talk about a lot of really great things, including the power of community, the right rooms, what's working the best in real estate right now, what other people are failing. If you are a real estate investors, like this guy talks to the best real estate investors on a daily basis, and they have the inside scoop of what's working and what's not working. So we'll delve into that in a little bit. But there's something that you just said that I don't want to gloss over. And this is something that I've learned from you guys, which is you might have the best ideas and the things that you want to do, but you guys took your time to implement it. Mm-hmm. And you had that CEO idea for like so long before you started Elevate and Select 4.5 years ago, but you took your time and implement that like just this past year. Can you talk about the importance of kind of not focusing on too many things and try to do too much at a time? And what advice would you give to like somebody watching this as it relates to when they have those like great ideas that they want to implement right away?
I think this is a hard one because, age does help with the patience to make sure that you're making the right decisions at the right time. Age and also community. We practice what we preach. These decisions are not made on our own. So when I talked about pushing a higher level group, that was a conversation with our leadership team. That wasn't just Jason and I sitting in a room going, no, we're not doing that. It was our own board of directors that we surround ourselves with to have these conversations. Like, what serves the business and the community best right now? And I think that's where, if I look at the best operators and entrepreneurs, quite frankly, it doesn't matter if they're doing real estate or anything else, the best operators within our community are that premier and CEO level. And they've made mistakes. They're not perfect by any means. I mean, being a business owner is never going to be perfect. But I think you weigh all of the pluses and minuses and what serves the community or what serves your business best right now. And at the time, the underserved community was the select level community and not the CEO level community. And so we're always laser focused. I have Jason Medley, our founder, to thank for that. Always very methodical, always very patient of making the right decision. And sometimes, especially when I was first coming in, I was really wanting to prove myself and throwing out all these great ideas and when they don't get, someone doesn't jump on them, it's easy to get frustrated on those things. But I think in time, as I've over the last 7 years talked to literally thousands of operators across the country and in other countries, because we now have members based in foreign countries as well. The biggest thing I see there's a couple threads that are the same of all of them. And one of them is they laser focus on the projects or the additions or whatever it is for their business at that given time. They do not take distractions. It is, I'm laser focused on getting this right before I move on to the next thing. And that's super important. We talk about it within our community all the time is, laser precision versus, and entrepreneurs are like this, right? We see shiny objects and we move and we go on to the next thing. I think it's super important to do that because those where the ideas come from. Entrepreneurs have to be the visionary, but you have to have someone that's a filter. And generally that's a second in command, a COO, an integrator that says, all right, there are 12 ideas up on that board. Let's force rank them to say that one is number one, that's number two, and here's the plan that we're going to attack. In year one, we're going to attack that one. We're going to make that one right before we move on to the next thing.
And this is kind of hard too. Like when you have all those great ideas and you have to wait like a year or 2 years to attack them, that's like probably one of the hardest things because you want to do it now and try to do it. But truly when you take that step back and figure out like, okay, this is kind of what would be the most important or the most, you'll get the most results from by focusing on that expedite the process because you're gonna like, there's a circle, like if you focus too much energy on a bunch of different things, you get small growth in each of those areas. But if you focus on one thing, you would exponentially grow that, and then now you can focus on the next thing that you'll have more energy to kind of do that as well.
Laser focus. I want 2 follow-ups on that. Number one is when you're younger, I'm closer to 50 than I am 40 these days. When you're younger, you think that years are long. As you get older, you realize 2 years will be here. I mean, it just absolutely flies by. So, a 3-year plan is something that as I've gotten older, where'd those 3 years go? So it's easy now, more so than ever, to say, a 3-year plan, that'll be here around the corner. And so that's easy to laser focus on because I know that it'll go by fast and we can move on to the next thing. The second piece of that, I think the best advice, if you take nothing else from this pod today, it is specifically to that force ranking that we were talking about earlier. When you have these great ideas for your business, and again, a visionary's job is to continue to push because you cannot hire great talent unless you have a great visionary, because great talent wants to be led. They want to see that you have a vision that's going to help them grow within the company, financially, mentally, career-wise. Stars are attracted to great vision, right? And when you throw great vision up on the board, they get excited about what's next because they see, oh my gosh, maybe I'm in this department right now, but that's my passion. I could take that on, right? It gives them a vision of what their future can be, not just a business, but what their future can be. So everyone grows together. Everyone's rowing in the same direction. But the key part of deciding, which is the most important of all of those when you're force ranking them, take nothing else, take this away. It's what gets me the most amount of revenue with the least amount of effort, right? Because that is ultimately going to fund other ideas that might not get you the most amount of revenue with the least amount of effort. We call it low-hanging fruit, right? It serves the business and it brings in revenue that you may be able to take on more passion projects that have lower margins. But take the one that's the most profit with the least amount of effort and energy and brain power, which causes brain damage, right? And I think that's the key when anyone is listening to this as an entrepreneur that is like, man, I really want to do these 5 things. All right, well, let's talk about the margins of all of those and what you got to have some passion behind those things as well. Because if there's a tiebreaker, if 2 of them can bring you the most amount of revenue with the least amount of effort, well, what's the one that's going to bring you the most joy in doing? And that'll be to use that as your tiebreaker.
I like to say when we have that mic drop moment, that's so fire, baby. That was fire. That was a really great way to put that. And obviously kind of what you were saying, that to me taking a step back and thinking about it, and something that we definitely would be implement. Very well said. Thank you for sharing that.
It's amazing, man, that it's so simple, Jet, but it is, people don't follow that formula because they're excited about the joy that something may bring them in the business. But let's face it, the business, unless you're just, you come from money and you can just waste a bunch of money, which most entrepreneurs don't, you need to fund those passion projects, right? And so a passion project typically, let's face it, isn't bringing you the margins that you need to grow a business most times, not all. There are obviously scenarios where that's different, but it's so simple. But it's something that I think that unless you hear it or unless you lived it, it's and continue to implement it on an annual. We do annual planning every year and quarterly planning in those years, and we're always looking at our one-page plan for that particular year. And if something comes up that's fresh and new, we look at it and say, all right, is that idea better than what we had already planned? And is that idea going to better serve the model of this business and the community of this business while bringing also revenue in? Then we'll replace it, but only if then.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's move in talking a little bit about the real estate industry right now. What is the biggest challenge or struggles that the average real estate investors are currently facing right now in their business, and how to solve that?
So this may or may not be a hot take, but what I'm so calm about this, because when you have lived in the real estate industry for more than 10 years, what the biggest challenges are today are challenges that are cyclical, that have come back around. But if you have only been in the business, let's say less than 10 years, whether that's retail real estate, commercial real estate, single family where you are flipping, you're investing in single family or multifamily, what have you. A lot of the issues today are just normalization of the real estate market. What do I mean by that? It's, if you look back at 2017, 2016, you didn't sell a property like you did in 2020 and 2021 and early 2022. You didn't sell a property in 24 hours with 10 cash offers. That's not real. It's not normal. It was the time of the market that the conditions were allowing for that. But that's not normal. And so what we're facing is normalization of the marketplace, where you actually have to put, if you're a flipper, you actually have to put a great product on the market that is competitive with what has sold in that particular area, right? Same thing in retail. If you're listing a house for a client, you need to make sure it's priced right today because interest rates are up. That's a challenge. But tell the people in the 1980s whether that they take a 7.5% mortgage or a 7% mortgage when they were in 18s and 20s, right? So it's all relative. Now, we won't see 18s and 20s more than likely ever again. Obviously we'll see 10s, but beyond that, I don't anticipate that. But interest rates are normalizing the marketplace. And I would say if there's something specific to real estate investors that is, causing, let's say, changes from their previous few years, the biggest thing is days on market, right? So a property that they could sell, whether they rehab the property and put it back on the market, or they just cleaned it out and put it back on the market for a retail buyer, where they would get multiple offers, that isn't happening. Now, this is regional, mind you. There are some of our investors that I'll talk to, and it's usually the investors that are more the veterans. They'll go, man, I'm crushing. And then you'll talk to others, and they're saying, man, I'm okay. It's just, my cash conversion cycle is longer. And so because of that, the business has not continued to grow as fast as what it was in 2020, 2021. The market has definitely changed, but the reason I said, this is not, probably not a hot take, but it's not something that we haven't seen before. It's not drastic. It's something that if you do the little things every day, they equal big things tomorrow. Little things like making sure that if you're a marketing business and you've seen your return on investment for your direct mail or for your television commercials, you've seen the return on spend. But Ben Mott talks about this all the time.
And his big head on social media.
Yes. Well, you just have to continue to evaluate. Gone are the days of, I can set it and just, I'm an ATM right now because the market is a star. If there's one biggest change I could say that I could get across is the market is no longer the star. You have to be the star today. That may change in a few years, but right now, if you really, truly want to continue to grow and scale as an entrepreneur, not just in real estate, you have to be the star.
I love that. Now, going back to what you said earlier, you've graduated over 45 people from, CG Select to CG Premier. What are some of the top things that those people specifically have done that has allowed them to double their deal flow, to grow, to get to the next level?
Oh, wow. I think I could really boil it down to three things. Number one, they've surrounded themselves with like-minded people in our community, okay, that are doing that next rung of business. Go back to the ladder, right? There's multiple rungs above them in that room, but they're gravitating to the person that's just above them to pull them up. So number one, they're getting involved in the community. Number two is that key word of involved. They're engaging the community, okay? They're actually developing relationships with other like-minded real estate investors that they share common challenges that they can help walk each other through, but really they take a learning curve from 6 months to 3 months because they are talking to someone that can give them a blueprint. Hey, rather than figuring it out on your own, here you go. This is what's worked for me. So the first is getting in the community. The second is engaging the community. And then third, they've let go.
They left their ego at the door.
They check their ego at the door, but also check not only coming into our community, but they've also checked their ego for their business. What do I mean by that? Typically someone that has gotten to a point of 30 to 100 transactions or $500,000 to $2 million of gross profit in real estate investing, if you looked at their org chart, they are in 8 seats, 9 seats. They are the acquisition person. They are the CEO. They're the COO, because no one can do it like them.
Yeah.
Right. And what they forget is that they just learned how to do the business 3, 5, 7 years ago. Right. So someone taught them. So you can now teach someone else, especially with all the resources that are available via podcast, YouTube, the podcast that we do, the podcast that coaches do. There's so many resources for real estate investors to be able to grow. What they've done is they've seen others in the room that said, I need to let go of my ego, that I need to do all of these things. If I can get someone to do this work, this transaction coordinator work that I'm currently doing, if I can get someone to do it 80% as good as I do it, then I finally can let go of that. The reality is, other than acquisitions, the sales piece of it, because generally when someone starts a business, they're the best salesperson. That's why the business has grown. Generally, when that happens, they let go of everything but that. And so what they start to do, and this is the big one, they start to hire a team. Mm. And they realize that they started a business for freedom, but they've worked themselves into a job.
Yeah.
And then they realize that, oh man, I wanted to get out of corporate America or not go into corporate America because I didn't want to have a boss. But now you have to become a boss. And if you want to scale, I know a lot of people that just own rental properties and say, I don't want the headache of anything else. I'll manage them myself. I don't want a bunch of employees. That's not the person that's in our community. The person that's in our community says, I don't want to sip Mai Tais on the beach, but what I do want to do is get to a point where I'm graduating to the next thing. What is that? I want to get into RV parks. I want to get into apartments. I want to use this single family investment business to be able to springboard this to the next thing while still doing this, because nothing wrong with single family. I want to continue that. But I want to springboard it to the next thing. And if I'm going to do that, I got to build a team. So it's those three things. Get in a community with like-minded people, engage in that community, and become friends with people that you can call on at any given time, that you can help each other. It's not a take-take relationship. It is a give, and I didn't even expect to take anything, and I got a bunch from it. And the third thing is replacing yourself and understanding it's okay to build a quality team. But that does take time for people that have never managed people before. Most entrepreneurs that have never done anything else, they've never managed a person in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're watching this show and you have questions for Leon right now, please make sure that you type them in the comment section right here, or feel free to, if you're getting value from this talk show, also feel free to share the talk show, or hit that love or like button as well. Now we're going to transition it a little bit and talking about one of your most exciting venture that you've been doing recently, which is the CG Pod.
Yes. Yes.
It's been a lot of fun. You've had some really great and successful real estate investors as part of the organization. Let me ask you a first question. Why did you guys decided to start the CG podcast?
Remember the vision board that we were talking about earlier with all the great ideas of what we could do? Well, podcast was one of those. So we had CEO on there, Select on there, Elevate, all these ideas of these different communities. And the podcast was always something that I wanted to do. You and I have had this conversation. I was a very bad broadcaster, but that's where I started my career. I was a broadcast journalism major. I was a pretty bad play-by-play voice, but I had the reps. I had the experience of broadcasting. I did that for 5.5 years. I worked at a television station when I was in college, and so I just have always loved broadcasting. Once I knew I wasn't going to the NBA to be a professional basketball player, I was like, what's the next best thing? Is covering sports. And so that led me to a career of broadcasting, and I was like, all right, once we started, growing these communities, I was like, all right, we've got to at some point get the pod up and running. And it took us some time, quite frankly. We had to build out our team ourselves. We have a massive team relative to when I first started with CG. We had 3 people.
Mm-hmm. 3 people.
That turned into, we have a team of over 15 now, serving 4 different communities and 2 different masterminds. Actually, you put the numbers together, I think we're at about 20 employees. And so it's just the right time. Probably, we should have done it years ago, but again, it went back to what is the lowest hanging fruit, gets you most amount of revenue, and then you can get into passion projects. And the pod was always going to be that passion project. What I wanted to do was just have conversations like this with high-level real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and humans. It's a conversation. I call them conversations with a genius. These are all of our members. And eventually, we'll start to get people in from the outside. Like I'm bringing on one of our keynote speakers from our last meeting. He's going to join me here in a couple of weeks to have him on. But to date, we've had the only guest that we've had. We started this in March of 2025. And we drop a new pod every week. So it's a weekly show. And these are all real estate investors talking about what they wanted to do from very early on and what they're doing today and the journey and the lessons that they've learned along the way. And I can tell you that I'm so excited about it because even though I know every single member I know some better than others, but even the ones I thought I knew really, really well, I've learned something new each individual pod. So it's a human pod, it's a business pod, it's a real estate pod. It's just really, really good.
Yeah. How long have you been doing that now? Like,
so what is that? That's we're going on 5 months.
5 months.
Believe it or not.
Fantastic.
Again, as I mentioned, as you get older, the years get shorter, and consistently producing a pod going on 5 months, and then thanks to your help, we added a second drop special pod that we do live at our events, which I will say that doing a pod remotely is fun because I learn a lot, but there's nothing better than doing a show live
in person.
And so those shows are live in person, and we cut those shows to be individual pods for those that don't get to see the live feed. And thanks to you, you've made me look really, really good on those live feeds. And the show, the information is what do we use? What are the presentations that we're doing on stage at those meetings? What's important to real estate investors right now? What are the issues that we're tackling with these presentations? We bring on, I think it's 8 to 10 of those individuals that are doing presentations. We say, what are you presenting on, and why is it of value? And so it's very practical, timely information. Those are dropping on Fridays.
Fantastic. What would you say is the importance? Why would you guys start a podcast? What are some of the reasons why behind you guys starting putting that together and creating a podcast? Yeah. What do you think that's going to do for the collective genius in general?
Well, we listen to our members present often on social media presence. And first, the pod gives you the opportunity to open up the curtain so people can see the personalities of the members, right? I think some people might be worried that you feature all of your members so everybody knows who your members are, but I thought that was super important that those that are considering a community like ours know who's in the room, right? That's for the longest, people knew the big names that were in the room, but they know nothing about them. And this gave us that opportunity to humanize that individual. I'll give you a for instance. This is not why we do it, but it is a good opportunity for those that are on the fence about, is this something I should do? I'm not quite sure if I'm ready for a community like this. I will send them to the pod, and I'll say, just listen to a couple of episodes, hear their stories of where they were and where they are today, and how humble they are as a group. That's the one thing that we talk about quite often is, there's a room for everybody. The person that is, the braggadocious entrepreneur that's beating their chest on social media, that's peacocking in front of, the room or trying to tell everybody how great they are. That's probably not the right fit for us. Nothing wrong with that individual. They just is a different room for them. And so what you learn is that, man, I thought for sure that everyone would be talking about how great they are and giving false numbers, which, some people, it's the old rule of, if I'm doing 50 deals, I'm really doing 60. You got to pump the numbers up a little bit. But what we have created is an environment where we feel like people they realize they don't have to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, the most growth that you get in our rooms comes from you sharing your warts.
Vulnerability.
You have to be vulnerable. If you come in the room and tell everybody that you're great, well, that's sure. Okay. We don't believe you. And that's okay if that's what you want to say. But if you truly want to grow, you have to say, these are my struggles. This is what I'm struggling with today, and I could really use your help. It's almost therapy. Yeah. Right? If you don't tell people what your problems are, they just fester and they never get better.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the biggest things that you guys have added at the Collective Genius, which is the vulnerability exercises. Mm-hmm. That is a core piece of what you guys do on as a curriculum for CG. And I think this is probably where they get the most growth, because now they are able to connect on a deeper level with those other people that are sitting around the table with them, and also sharing the things that are not working, so much. Like all the mastermind you go to, they just focus on presentation after presentation after presentation. But you guys took it upon yourself to do power pods or to do those vulnerability exercises, like other ways that people can build that community for them to be able to, do that.
You asked me, why the pod was important, and that's another reason is showing the human element, the vulnerability of individuals on that pod. We do that at the meetings for one very specific reason. Humans crave community.
Absolutely.
We do. And we crave like-minded community. And so when you are in a room with someone that's talking about their struggles with their teenage kids because they're always away and their teenage kids are, something's going on where they're having issues, right? Or marital issues because I work so much. And people feel comfortable with having those conversations because they've built relationships with a community of like-minded individuals. And the only way to really, truly grow a relationship, in my opinion, and psychologists may say different, but in my true opinion is seeing common threads between you and another individual that you relate with.
Absolutely.
If I'm struggling, or for instance, if, maybe I went through a struggle with, this, and I'm through it, and I can help you along. Well, there's something I'm struggling with that you may be struggling with as well. And so I don't think you can truly, Jet, have true connection without understanding who that person is.
Absolutely. Hey, shout out to you, Clint Warren. Authenticity is everything. Totally.
What's up, Clint? Good to see you.
What's going on? So now, as you relates to the podcasts that you've created, what are some of the things that you have learned throughout doing it over 5 months? What are some of the things that that weren't so great, or things that you've improved over time? And what are some surprising things that happened that you've learned by doing a podcast for 5 months now?
Well, I think the biggest thing is like the best advice I got starting out was just do, right? Just do it. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. And that's hard for me because I really want everything to be as perfect as possible. But the first thing was just do it and be consistent. If you look at, there's a crazy stat, I don't remember the percentage, but the pods that make it past a year, it's really small percentage of podcasts that continue. And I'm no quitter, Jet. I wanted to make sure that the show lived for a very long time. And I wanted it consistent every single week, which means a lot of work to make sure that you have a show produced every single week. Well, and then we quickly made that too. So I wanted to make sure that we had consistent content out there. I think what the biggest lesson I've learned over the time is making sure that we give as much value as we can. Now, obviously, learning someone's journey, if you're a real estate investor and you're a couple years in and you're learning from people that have been in it for 20, you're going to get a lot from that interview. But I think after 5 months, we've realized that we want to take it to another level. Like, what are the issues facing most real estate investors right now that are on the outside that we're doing things, we want to show what we're doing on the inside of the community to help members. And so we're going to take some of that go-giving that we do within the community. We do 3 live calls a week in between meetings, Jet. These are all focused on all the challenges that real estate investors have. We even do it for their team. So for their acquisitions, their dispositions, their lead managers, their property managers, their transaction coordinators. We actually have a call for their employees as well. And we're going to take some of those elements and at least once a month start to give additional value. Like, for instance, my good friend Jason Lewis in Salt Lake City, he's going to be the guinea pig. He is really good at direct mail. He's a really good investor, but he's one of those guys that understands ROAS, that return on ad spend, and making sure that you're maximizing every lead channel. And he's going to give the formula of, here's, everyone thinks direct mail is dead for real estate investors. That's cool. That means less people are doing it. So here's why, I am still having an increase 5x versus 2x or whatever the number is. I don't remember it off the top of my head. But utilizing that to show people, here's the formula. Download this, use this formula, just do these little things. It'll equal big things for you in the future. If you do those things, then you'll be successful. So giving the go-giving piece of CG a little taste, not all of it. Can't have all of it, can't have the whole community. But what you can have is just take these little things that our members are giving away. At least once a month is the goal out of the gates. Maybe we'll do it in the future more. But again, you got to start small in order to perfect it. Because what we don't want to do is give away 4 things a month that are mediocre.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also the really cool part of about a really good talk show or podcast. Now you get to tap in the genius of all of the people, and you have over 800 of them. A lot of really great people that, are successful at what they do, but bringing them on the show, talking to them, find out what's working for them, like sharing like some of the insider secrets that they have that other people might benefit from. And by building that, specifically create that, I guess, affinity with the people that don't know anything about CG, and that they would want to kind of be around those people on a constant basis to be able to learn from them. So
it's called collective genius for a reason.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like, everyone has a genius zone, whether that's marketing, leadership, sales. Everyone in the room maybe have multiple genius points, but the reason it's called collective genius is for everyone to come together and share their genius. Because generally what happens is when you have people that are vulnerable with each other, one may have really good skills at direct mail, the genius that we were just talking about before, and the other one's really good at television advertising. And this person that does direct mail, you can't be a genius on all things, right? And so they get together and say, all right, here's what you need to do on this side. All right, here's what, and they share that like-minded information. So we get to give, moving forward with the pod, we get to give, a snapshot or a peek behind the curtain of what happens. And I think the biggest takeaway that I want from people is to understand the value of community, especially when that community is full of the type of people that we have in the room.
Absolutely. So another thing too, when you create a podcast, you can also use it as a lead magnet. Are you guys doing anything like that to use it as a lead magnet? And what are some of the ways that you're positioning the podcast to be that lead of magnet?
Well, you're speaking Jason Medley's language now, because that is the next piece of this, right? We're going to give a tremendous amount of value at least once a month, but that will lead to a lead magnet, meaning that if you want this document that is created by this genius to help you out, obviously most of these people are going to already be a part of our channels, but for those that are not, that would be the lead magnet, the lead magnet that we're not doing today. The other piece of it that, I'm struggling as an influencer, and I say that because the formula of which becoming that influencer is not necessarily a passion of mine. Doesn't mean that I can't figure out the formula for me. But this allows for me to have a baseline foundation of social presence, right? You take those reels and you create content, and not just content. And I know that, it's reps, right? Not all of them are going to be winners. But when I'm interviewing high-level entrepreneurs, they're always going to say something fire, like as you say.
Fire!
Right? They're always going to say something. In a 50 to 70-minute pod, they're going to say something that's going to allow for us to feature that on social. And so in itself, is it a traditional lead magnet? Will it lead a bunch of people our way? Probably not. But it does create that initial people say, like I had a gentleman in California earlier this week say to me, you guys are everywhere. Like everybody in my community is following you. Everybody knows you. Why is that? And I just simply said, well, kind of a big deal.
That's awesome. So yeah, we're nearing the end of the talk show right now. So we're gonna transition it a little bit into the fire hose kind of thing. So I'm gonna ask you a bunch of questions. Intendly to kind of like give some like quick responses, sure, like that we can turn into reels or something like that. Okay. But the first one, not related to any of the things that you that we've been talking about. You are a fantastic ball player, and I've really enjoyed playing with you. What are some of the greatest lessons that you've learned from playing basketball? And obviously, I don't know, did you play Division II?
I did not play, believe it or not.
But you're a fantastic player, and I've gotten to play. What are some of the lessons that you've learned from playing basketball, being team? Obviously, you're a great coach as well, that are translated to business.
What I have found in business, my 11 years in corporate and 11 years now in real estate, what I have found that there's really two industries, actually call it three. Sports, people that were, and it doesn't have to be college, people that were competitive athletes at the high school level and above, military, the disciplines that come with those two. And I'll say a third, and I'll shout out my wife on this one because she was a high level, competitive, all levels of contemporary dance. And so the artists that are super disciplined, the ballet dancers, there's a discipline that comes with that as well. I think it translates so well to business. It just does. There's that individual gets up early, works hard, understands that with little things equal big things, as you continue to hear me say. And so I've always had passion towards coaching basketball because I had some great coaches in my life that really helped set me up for what I became on a personal and both business side. Like they really pushed me to push myself. And so I continue to coach to this day. Even before, I have two sons, one 13 and one 8. One
great
has
ball players and
one of
a musician.
One of them loves sports. The other one couldn't care less. Like he is not about it. Like the sports is not his thing. That's okay. We're gonna find his thing. But basketball really isn't his thing. And so it continues to make me better, not only as a father, not only as someone giving back to the community, but it really, when I'm coaching and teaching disciplines to get better at a sport, it relates very well to business. And it also gives you reps for platform skills. Like Eric Brewer and I talk about this all the time. If you haven't had Eric on this desk yet, you got to get him next time he's in town.
Eric, if you're watching this, let's do it.
Yeah. So he and I talk about this all the time. Like the best leaders, if you look at across the board, the best leaders that you follow, right? What are they really good at? They're really good orators. Like they can just hold a stage, a room. People look up to them and they're like, I will follow that individual. And so when you're coaching, you're always leading, right? You're in charge of all of the roster. You're in charge of who plays. You're in charge of making sure you make the right substitute. Like you're having conversations constantly. And so it continues to make me better on that side. So I try to make my hobbies things that also make me better in my day-to-day life. And just also, I've always said basketball is a ministry for me. It allows me to affect positively young men, because I've never coached girls before, but young men in my community that hopefully I can have a positive impact on. And a lot of them see what I do and they're curious about real estate or they're curious about business. And they're like, what is it again that you do again, coach? Because I saw you with Kobe Bryant's trainer at a meeting recently. How do you know him? You know, so it's it's something that I still play. I'm 48 years old and I still play. And I'm actually a better player, Jetro, today than I was at 18.
Wow, that's incredible.
I say that I was more athletic at 18, but I'm a much smarter player at 48. And I think that's right. That's life. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of young entrepreneurs that are doing things that they'll learn from and they'll slow down and do them more efficiently, as we talked about before. And it's just a life lesson, and I'll continue to do that as long as they'll have me.
Absolutely. And a couple of things I've learned playing with you as well is teamwork and also do the best, do the things that you are the best at. Like when I'm playing with you, obviously you're fantastic, but you also tell me, hey, Jet, you're really good at getting the rebounds and stuff like that. Focusing on that skills and let everybody as a team work on what they do individually well and come together to win.
See, that's the mark of a great leader, right? I complimented you. I didn't talk anything about what you're not good at, right?
I know there are things that I'm not very good at.
But that's why it relates to leadership, right? When you are coaching or you're playing a sport and you see all the good. I see all the good in your game, or just the same as I would see all the good in an employee versus all the bad. We know what we need to work on, right? But let's hyper focus on what they're really good at and really talk them up in that role, right? Like in a traditional real estate investing world, I don't love all the contractual stuff. That's not my genius zone by any means. I can do it, but I don't want to do it. It's not passion for me, right? So you put someone in that is their passion. The same thing goes for sports, right? So when you have certain positions, someone is going to be the best shooter, right? Someone's going to be the best ball handler. Someone's going to be the best rebounder. You're going to have roles that are defined. Now, the best teams do, right? The people that everybody thinks that they're the shooter, that team is typically going to struggle. So when you're building out a team, and this relates back to business now, when you're building out a team, find the people, especially as you start to build that org chart out. And here's another golden nugget for you. As you start to build out that org chart, really force rank what you love to do and what you don't love to do. What do you wake up every single morning you're excited about doing, right? It's the Buy Back Your Time, Dan Martell book, right? It's really focus on the things that as you start to build a team that you love. Like you may not love rebounding, so find someone that can rebound for you. From a transaction coordinator standpoint, maybe you hate doing all the paperwork so when you're able to, that's the first position because you hate that the most. That's the position that you hire first.
Absolutely. Next question. What is the $1 million advice that you would be giving to somebody watching this as a real estate investor to grow their business?
Build relationships. I know it's on brand for me to say that with this community, but I will say before I joined CG, I did as many local business meetings that I could. I remember when I was a COO working for a flipping organization in the Midwest, I went to business meetups every single Thursday and additional ones. But that one I went to every Thursday for 5 years. And the relationships that I built, they weren't, just for monetary gain of the business. They were first and foremost, let me see how I might be able to help. Just a smaller CG for all businesses, right? And what I ended up finding is that those people not only became friends, but also we built business relationships with that I needed filled. Roofing companies, HVAC companies, plumbing companies. And so all the trades for a flipping organization are important. And I just made sure that I built community. And that was something we paid for. And it was my time to do it. And it was just, it was so impactful for our business and for me. Relationships will always win in the right room. Because there's some, I had said this quote yesterday on a pod is, I think I had a coach one time say to me, you're hanging out with the wrong people. You're with 4 losers and quickly you'll become the 5th hanging around 4 losers, right? Yeah. So find 4 winners and hang around with 5 winners.
Boom.
And so the best $1 million advice I could say is find the people that you admire and that you want to be like, and build that community. Build your five people that you trust that are your board of advisors. Find those people, and I promise you, they will do nothing but bring you up instead of build you up instead of take away.
Absolutely. I know CG is really big on culture. What is the most important thing that somebody can do if they want to build the right culture for their team?
Define it. What is it? What's important to you? There are some businesses that the culture is about money. That's okay. That's your culture. I've heard Eric talk about this several times at our in presentations that he's done about leadership, and it's you'll see this in a bunch of leadership books, Maxwell or any of the others that you read, is that whether you think you have a culture or not, you do. So if you haven't defined the culture, you have a culture, but it's not defined by you. It's been defined by the employees. So the first thing I would say is define what's important to you. From day one with Jason, when he founded this organization, he wanted people in the organization that would give. The book Go Giver is a book that if you haven't read, it is a principle of giving before and without expectations of anything in return. Yeah. It's very biblical, and something that I believe that the more we as a society live that way, it won't be kumbaya for everybody, right? Yeah. But it's a culture that I believe that if we live more of, everyone will continue to get what they want. Collaboration over competition. Building those relationships is something that, with culture is important to us. But yours may not be that. Yours may be, I want to, like Gary Harper talks about all the time, I want to give away X amount to do God's work, right? You have to define what's important for you and build your culture around that so everyone understands the tracks that they're running on. Because it's really easy when you have defined culture, it is really easy to see who's playing outside the tracks.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so it's so great to hear you say that, because obviously that I would say is one of the biggest things that has attributed to CG's success, because the culture around CG is the go-giver mentality, and is the collaboration, is the connection. So because you guys define that and you know what you stand for and stand against, and obviously Jason and you talks about that as the very first thing in the meeting, every single meeting, because it's defined now. Everybody's on board and knowing exactly what that is.
People stick out like a sore thumb when they come to our group. And, you can fool me on a consult for an hour, but what you can't fool is the community.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, although the community is not our employees, even if you have a business that has membership based, you have to define that culture. And we remind them, even though out of the gates for 14 years, they hear the same, check your ego at the door. Here are our core values. You have to stand for something, and you have to remind everyone in that room why that is important for their success. It's ultimately for them. The culture is built for them. And when someone does come out, same thing you'll see in your business. When you hire someone for need and not culture, that individual will not be successful unless they assimilate. Unless they say, you know what, I came in here really money driven and not like, for instance, with real estate investors. You will see with most of our real estate investors, part of their core values is serving the community, because we offer a service that helps people in need. Like, some people just can't list their home. They need to sell it for cash. They need to get out of it because maybe they inherited. They live in Alaska and their parents passed away in Florida. What are they going to do with that house, right? For sure. They need to move it, and they want to move it on it quick. So serving is part of a lot of people's core values. And when you have people that are not about serving the community, you then look like a pariah industry, and not actually a business offering a service to help others first, right? So those type of businesses are typically what we attract because we've defined the core values, we define the culture.
Absolutely. Earlier, you mentioned books a little bit. What is the number one book that you would recommend right now? I know you probably can give me 15, but what is the number one book that you would recommend right now that has made the most impact to you, and why?
So the easy one, and you mentioned it earlier, and I'm mentioning this particular book because of who I talk to on a daily basis. If you are a business owner and you are looking to continue to grow, and you really haven't defined the roles in order for people, in order for the business to continue to ascend, Who Not How by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. We had him on stage talking about the principles of that book, and it's, my goodness, every page is about just finding the right person to do the job, but there's a lesson behind it, because most people, it's the E-Myth, if you've ever read that book. Most entrepreneurs get into a business because they're good at that thing. There's a reference in that E-Myth book about this lady being a great baker. She was unbelievable at making pies, so she started a pie business. But what does she know about hiring? What does she know about accounting? None of those things are innate to a pie maker, right? None of those things are innate to someone that's really good at landscaping, right? But they have a skill and they start that business. And over time, you will hit a ceiling. You're like, it's like with working out. You lift and you lift and you lift, and at some point you hit that ceiling. Same thing. And so over time, you have to figure out, I cannot grow this beyond right now where I'm at because I've done everything on my own. Now I have to have specialists to come in. And so understanding the concept of finding the who's first, right? How do I do this? Doesn't matter. Find the who, and they will show you how. Especially as you grow your business, you start hiring people that have expertise in the things that you're hiring.
Absolutely.
That's the most important part, Jetro, is that they actually have experience so they can say, don't worry, I got it. You want this built out? I got it. I've already done this for X, Y, and Z company. I've got you.
Yeah. It's funny, you're such a overachiever and also such a go-giver. I asked you for one book and you gave me two. Who Not How and then E-Myth. But one thing that you just said that I want to make sure that is not glossed over is the impact that you guys have had with CG by not just focusing internally on the people that are doing presentation, but bringing some really fantastic people that are providing so much value. You mentioned Benjamin Hardy. Mm-hmm. You guys brought him and keynote speaker and created so many fantastic books that obviously has given so much to the community. You brought Jeff Hoffman, who is a billionaire that has provided so much to the community and kind of really shifted a lot of mindset. You brought Michalowicz with Profit First.
Yes.
Those
Mike
people,
Michalowicz.
have created so many really great books, and that you guys bring them as keynote speakers to provide so much value to the community. And I think this is so awesome that you guys do that.
It's conceptual, Jetro. It's like we look at who can we bring in that gives. We're not just bringing in people to bring in people. We're not an event type of business. We're a community. So when we're looking at who could we bring in this quarter, and they're not all great, right? They've all done something that we wanted to bring them in for. When I say great, some people are better on stage than others, right? And frankly, sometimes the people that are not great on stage have the best content. It's just not delivered as well. Yeah. That said, when we are evaluating, another piece of the genius of the collective genius is that after every meeting, we go back to work on the next one, right? It's not just, let's set it and forget it. We'll just, when we get close, we'll start, we start, what did we do well on the last meeting? What needs to change? And it's ever evolving. You'll never get the same meeting twice.
Yeah.
There are structural things that we do and that work that we know we maintain. But Keynote has become one of those. At 2020, we used to just bring in one keynote a year, and then COVID changed that, and we started looking at the model of bringing one in every single quarter, and now starting to look at bringing them into select as well. And so we're not just bringing in people that, just wrote a book. We're bringing in concepts that people need, like who, not how. That's a concept they need. When we brought in Jeff Huffman, we were bringing in, that's the owner one of the co-founders of Priceline.
Billion-dollar company.
Yeah, the man invented the airport kiosk.
Yep.
Like when you go and get a ticket at the airport and it prints the ticket, that guy created it. That's type of entrepreneur he was and is. But he was talking about lifestyle. Like a lot of our members have gotten to a point where they're looking at legacy. They're in their 60s and they're like, what's next? I don't mind. I love business and I'm going to continue it. But how do I have this, this life where that I can leave legacy? And so we do get members that say, I've seen this person speak. We need to bring them on stage. And then we also we use previous speakers to say, you were great. Is there anyone that offers what you do or similar that we might? So we always ask for referrals from those individuals. And I've been very thankful. I've got to meet some really high-level humans that just happen to be, authors and billionaires, and they've all been great.
Yeah. You want to hear a quick story about one of the speakers that came? Jeff Hoffman. We were in, I think, Arizona for his second time that he was presenting.
We're in Scottsdale. I remember it.
Yep. So being Jethro liked his keys in his room. So I went to the front desk, and it was in my wallet. So I left my wallet in the room, and I went to the front desk to ask for like a new key to be able to get
your
it.
ID.
And I didn't have my ID.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, we need your ID to be able to give that." And it was at the exact same time that Jeff Hoffman was checking in.
But you had met him at the prior
event. Yeah. I don't know if you remembered me, but he literally told the ladies, okay, I'm going to give you my ID so you can give him his key, cards to be able to have access to his room. What kind of individual would do that for somebody that you've met maybe once before or not, probably even a year apart, probably doesn't remember me, but that is the caliber of person that he is.
I can tell you that of all the keynote speakers that we've had, he is top 2, top 3 for sure. And I mean, he was for a long time our number one, and arguably he's still my number one because his presentations were all about how he's made a bunch of money, right? But that's not what defines him.
Yeah.
What defines him is experience. Like his stories about going to foreign countries and having a meal with a local family that he's never met. This guy's a billionaire, meeting with local families and eating the way they eat. And I'm fascinated by that experience. And it's not something, obviously, that everyone can just do overnight because not everyone's a billionaire. But you would never know the guy's a billionaire. Other than that particular meeting, he walked in with a former professional football player, a former professional Major League Baseball player, and the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. That was his bodyguards for that particular event. I know because I got to meet all 3 of them. Pretty cool story. I'll share this with you. This is if you ever think about go giving, I thought. The Chicken Soup for the Soul author sold, millions and millions of copies of this particular book. And I remember in high school, my English teacher was a big fan of that book. This is 1994.
Wow.
She was a big fan of that book, and it was always on her desk. And I just remembered that, and I knew I was going to meet him. So I bought a book on Amazon, and I told him the story. I said, don't bother. I don't usually ask for autographs, but this isn't for me. This is for my high school teacher. Do you mind autographing this for me for her? And he goes, what's her name? And he wrote her name in there, and he says, tell me a story about her, why she was so impactful that you would bring her book to me. It was a really cool moment,
right?
That is
awesome.
And I asked her for her address, and she was like, I'm sure she was like, why is my student from 20, 30 years ago asking me for my address? And then I sent it to her, and she sent me this amazing note. Just if you look at, when it comes to the community that we've built, we always think about, it's just not me, it's everyone in our community. We think about others in those moments that, the impact that we can have versus, like, I was really excited to meet Sean Merriman, the NFL player. Mm-hmm. But in that moment, I went for the author first.
Yeah, for sure.
Before somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something that some of the members presented about, like, impact moments. But I have two more questions for you before we end this. The first one is, what is the number one advice that you would give to a real estate investor that is just starting their business, or even that are like a very successful CEO? What is the number one advice that you would give them to continue to scale their business?
So first and foremost, tell people what you do, right? That is, I think, the easiest way today for people to be able to get the word out of what they do is social media. I'm not on there like that at that level, but if I'm looking to start and I'm not on social media, telling people what I'm doing, adding value, I'm doing my business a disservice. Somebody that I've seen using this model lately is Benmont Locker. We've now mentioned Benmont. If there was a bingo game, we would have won by now, because I think Benmont's been mentioned 4 or 5 times. But he's somebody that, like me, is not, I can tell out of the gates, he didn't want to necessarily get on a post every day, but he's done little things equal big things. And he, letting people know about their core business of helping real estate investors grow. And he's just presenting that. And so gaining an audience, that's both nationally, and also you can do that at your local levels as well. So the first thing I would say is making sure that people understand what you do. If you're a real estate investor, people don't need you all the time. They may only need you 1 or 2, maybe 3 times in their life, tops, right? So you don't want to be that individual that's, you talk to a friend and says, yeah, I just inherited this house and I sold it to this guy. And you're like, what? Hold on. You knew that's what I do. Oh, I didn't. I thought you were a retail agent or whatever, right? So the first thing I would say is make sure that you tell everyone what it is that you do consistently and give value in sharing your story. And then everything else typically falls into place if you have a good following. When Eric Brewer first started doing daily posts, all he could talk about was not necessarily the leads he was getting. What he would talk about are all the great applications he was getting from people in the community that said, I just love what you're doing. I love your mission and I want to serve just like you. How do I become a part of your organization? So all the things that you need to scale a business, which is people know what you do, that call you, and then great people apply, you can scale pretty easy.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Great advice, and thank you for sharing that. So the last question that I have for you is for people that are interested in scaling their business, or for people that are interested in scaling their business, whether they just started their real estate investor or they're growing into the CEO, how can they get a hold of Collective Genius? How can they contact, or what does the process look like for them to join the CG community?
So the first thing I would say is check out our website. On that website, you're going to see all the different communities that are available. So if you qualify, there's an application there, and you can find that at explorecg.com. explorecg.com. On that page, you will see our Elevate level, our Select level, and it breaks down where you need to be deal flow wise or revenue wise in order to qualify. From there, it's not just I get in. Oh, I qualify, I'm in. You will meet with someone on our team, myself, Eli Fisher, or Jesse Bibby. We all handle kind of different levels now. I'm grateful to have 2 great colleagues that also do what I do now, because
you were the only one that did it for 4 or 5 years.
There was 5 years there where I was the only one, and Jason did it for 8 prior to that. And so as we grew levels, we needed to have additional consultants. And so we will look at your challenges. We'll talk about your business. Generally, we'll do a 45-minute to 60-minute consult, depending upon the needs of the call. And what we're looking at is, are you a good fit for us? But at the same time, you should be vetting us. And so we'll walk through those challenges and how we can potentially help, what the community does. But we're focused on your business first. If your goals are not to grow, and again, scale means something different to everyone. If you're looking to scale at any level, we've got a room for you. And so we'll go through that consult, and if it makes sense, we'll extend an invite. If it doesn't, that's okay too. At least you will learn, what the value of the community is. And I've had consults that I've done 5 years ago where people say, I wasn't ready. And I was embarrassed to tell you that I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But now I am.
Absolutely.
So you can be vulnerable on those calls as well and just say, hey, Leon, I'm really struggling with X. And if it's not the right fit, I can tell you this. My value proposition to anybody that's a real estate agent is always, if I don't have a solution for you, in 7 years, I've talked to a lot of people that might be able to help you with that specific need. If I can't help you in the community, more than likely you're going to get a referral from me, from someone that maybe they need an individual coach, or maybe they need sales training first, or maybe they need operations help first. Well, I've got a bunch of those people that are good members that they might need first, that I would say, go talk to this person first, and then when you're ready, come back to us.
Absolutely. And then the second part of that too, you started a fantastic show for CG Pod for real estate investors. How can people watch that?
Yeah, that's a passion project right there. Every Tuesday and every Friday, we drop new episodes on YouTube. The easiest way, if you want to find them all the previous episodes, are thecgpodcast.com, thecgpodcast.com. And anywhere you get your podcast, whether that's Apple or Droid, you can find all of those podcasts available there. And I started with mostly, our CEO level and premier level members. So you've got the cream of the crop at the top. If you do the math, though, I've got a long list of members that I know. I have some members that are saying, "Hey, Leon, I really want to be on the show." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to get you on there. You're going to get on there." But I've got just in the CG side, we have almost 600 members, and so I've got a few members to go through over the years. So I can promise you this: it's quality content that you can relate to if you're an entrepreneur. Not even a real estate investor, if you're just an entrepreneur to start, but obviously if you're a real estate investor in any facet. The CEO podcast, we're talking about development. We're talking about commercial. We're talking about apartments. We're talking about raising capital. So they're really, really good. TheCGPodcast.com is where you can find all of those. Thank you for addressing that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Boom. There you have it. It was so much fun having you on the talk show today, Leon.
Finally, I got down here.
Yes. It's been
25-minute drive.
Yep. Talked about a lot of really great stuff. Yeah. And again, super thankful for the CG community and obviously all the people that I got to meet over the 7 years.
Yes.
That we've been working together. And again, I just love CG. Like we typically, when people reach out to us to help them with their events, we tell them no. But we love CG so much that we want to continue to work and doing things with that. And it's been such a fantastic ride over the past 7 years.
We're going to continue to ride that, man. That the community, you are the community, my friend. You and your brother, when I first met the two of you 7 years ago, I met you first, obviously. You were a culture fit from day one. And so we are big fans of you, your brother, your family. We're big fans of this show, and we want to continue to support you. In fact, at some point, another one of those things on the wall is us producing a show from here, which it will happen in due time. The lowest hanging fruit, obviously, we got to get to first. But we've had those conversations where eventually we'll be shooting something out of this studio.
Boom. There you have it. Awesome. Yeah, everybody that tuned in today, thank you so much for watching. Greatly appreciate you. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the show and share this as well. And don't forget to go to explorecg.com or going to check out their podcast. You definitely would learn a lot from the top investors in the country. Let's go, baby. It's fire.
Thanks, brother.
Boom.